Good morning, everyone. To kick things off today, we're going to start with a short video from the Little Rascals. I bet some of you have seen it, because today we're going to be dealing with pickles. So here's the video.
Pickles, I thought they stink. I love pickles. My mother makes me eat them. I'm crazy about them. I'll say nothing for a pickle. How about 2 cents? Okay. I have 2 pickles. I have 2 pickles. I have 2 pickles today. Hey, hey. The 2 big little boing bing pickle. I have 2 pickles today. Hey, day. Rough day? Don't ask. Are these kosher?
Alright, so now that we've watched that, let's go over our agenda and objectives for the day. We watched the video. Today we're going to be dissecting pickles, focusing on safety of dissecting some key terms, and then actually taking some statistical analysis of the measurements of our pickles. And then at the end of class we're going to review what we've learned. Our objectives: safe dissection, define terminology, compute statistical analysis, keep records and sketches throughout the lab, and lastly, hopefully explain why a pickle is either a fruit or a vegetable. Well, that's what we're going to be doing. So to get started on these pickle dissections, if you will, it's interesting that my 7-month-old son is the only student in lab today, but we're going to roll with it. To get started, would everyone please grab their lab manuals, those handouts, and I'm going to draw a little picture real quick that might make the terminology a little bit easier. So even though it sounds a little funky, we're going to make this pickle into an animal. So say we've got our little pickle, and we're just going to put a head on him, just 'cause. Okay? Eyes, mouth. Here's his belly. Here's his back. You can put spikes on it like a dinosaur or whatever. And his butt's back here. Okay, so the 4 words are ventral, dorsal, anterior, and posterior. Can anybody tell me where those words would go on this animal? Very good. Anterior is his head, the head end. So we can label that. Anybody else? Nothing else? Alright, well I will just go ahead and finish this out. The front is anterior. The back is posterior, like post. We'll label that. Posterior. Actually, for ventral and dorsal, does anybody here fish? I'm curious about that, because you've probably heard of a dorsal fin. What do you think? Nothing? Well, this will be dorsal, like the big fin on the back of a fish, and this will be ventral. So in looking at our pickles, you can kind of tell that each one has a lighter end and a darker end, one that's more dark green. That lighter end, well, I don't want to mess up. Let me tell you correctly. The darker end is the head. Okay, sorry, I had to check my notes real quick. So the darker end will be the anterior end. Okay, feel alright about those? You can write about them a little bit. Okay, so now that we know that, I am going to show you how to dissect a pickle. Safety is #1 in this lab. We got to remember safety. Our scalpels are super sharp, and we're only going to make one cut, so you guys really need to just take it slow, do it right, and I don't think anybody will get hurt. Okay, so we're going to take our pickle. Like I said, the dark end is the anterior end, the head, and the lighter end is the posterior. The only cut we're going to make is straight all the way through the pickle from anterior to posterior. Okay, all the way through, long ways, and hopefully just end up with 2 pretty symmetrical halves. I'm going to go ahead and do that. Notice I'm careful with my left hand, or offhand. Careful not to cut myself, and I'm not just whacking away at it. Nice and controlled. And it should look something like this when you get done. You'll see 2 equal halves, seeds in the middle. That'll come up in steps 5 and 6 in your procedure of the activity. So how we're going to do this is everybody just come up, send one person from each group to grab a pickle, a lab tray, and a scalpel, and then just head back to your seats, and we'll get started. So again, any questions about what we're going to do? The directions are pretty clear, but if you do have questions, approach me, raise your hand. I'm going to try and get around to every group and help you as you work through the lab. So people come up and get all of their stuff. Alright, now that everyone has their pickles and they're beginning the activity, I'm going to draw a table on the board. In number 3, you're going to see that it wants you to measure your pickle, the length of the pickle. Once you get that measurement, you're going to come up and write it on the board, and then later in the lab we're going to do some stuff with all the measurements as a class and hopefully conclude some stuff. So I'll draw that. You keep working, and whenever you have a measurement, you don't need to ask, just come straight up to the board and fill it in. Alright, now that everyone has measured their pickle and recorded it, actually those are, draw them in real quick. And thank you to everyone for using centimeters like it says in your handout. I forgot to mention that earlier. So we're going to work through this table as a group. I would much rather you guys understand it and ask me questions. Now that you've had a chance to give it a shot in your groups and ask each other questions, I want you to really know what these mean instead of just kind of copying somebody and writing it down. So first off, in your table means what? Right, the number of pickles. How many pickles do we have up here? 5. Right. Okay, so n equals 5. Is that pretty clear? Okay. What about max? What would the max be? Right, the longest pickle. The biggest length. So which one up here would be the max? Yeah, 9.8. Right here is our max. That makes sense, the maximum. On the other side, what is min? The shortest, right? So here, 5.1 centimeters was our shortest, so that's our min. Now, this is a little bit trickier. How would you find the range of these 5 measurements? How would you get the range? Anybody? No, you don't need to multiply at all. Yeah, you would take the longest and subtract from it the shortest. The max minus the min will give you your range. So here, our longest was 9.8 centimeters. Our shortest was 5.1 centimeters. So when you subtract those two, what do we end up with? Right. 4.7 centimeters is our range. So the difference between the smallest and the biggest, if you could set that small pickle by the big pickle, that difference is the range. Good job. And that's clear? Cool. What about the average length? Okay? Anybody? Jace? Very good. You add the 5 lengths and then divide by n. N is the number of pickles altogether. So we're going to add all of these lengths up. So 6 plus 6.7 plus 7.5 plus 9.8 plus 5.1. Add all of those up and then divide by 5 because 5 is our n. Does that make sense at all? Or is it kind of weird? Who came up with this idea? Doing okay? Alright, does anybody want to volunteer and do the math for us? And then we can check it with the calculator afterwards maybe? Alright, sure, come on up. So hopefully they do the math correctly. Alright, and the last statistic that we're looking for is the median. Does anybody know what the median is? Nothing? Any guesses? Did anybody write down an answer just because they thought it was close? Alright, well, I will show you real quick. The median, oh, I should have done that, 6.0. Okay, the median, there's no math, or, well, obviously there's math. There's no addition, no multiplication, none of that. All it is we're going to line our numbers up from smallest to largest, kind of just put them in order, really. So we've got 6.0, whoa, that's not right. 5.1 is the smallest measurement, right? That'll be at the left. 6.0 is the second smallest. 6.7, 7.5, and then lastly 9.8 is the largest. Okay, what might we be looking for if we just line these numbers up? You guys have never heard of median. That's okay. We're going to learn it right now. The median is simply, without getting into stats too much, it just measures what number is in the middle of the set, of the data set. This is our set of numbers. What's in the middle? It doesn't add them, it doesn't average them. All it does is line them up and count from both sides until you hit the middle. So out of 5, okay, there's our lowest, there's our highest. We're just going to keep working in one by one. And what we're left with is 6.7. So that's our median value for this set of numbers. Is that kind of clear? Does it make sense? Alright, good deal. So now that we've gone through this, I'm going to let you guys go through the questions in the results section of the handout. There are 5 questions. We've been through most of it. Some of it's going to ask you to think a little outside the box, reflect on what we did today. So if you go ahead and work on those, ask each other for help first. That's why I put you guys in groups. You can talk to each other. You'll just hand in one paper for every group. And if you guys can't figure it out on your own, then ask me as a last resort. But I want you to try and think it out first. So work on that, and then after a few minutes, we'll come back and review. Alright, everybody. Thank you for working hard today and being safe with the scalpels and cleaning up. The room looks great and nobody was hurt. Good deal. To wrap things up, we're going to go around the room group by group, and every group, not individual person, but group, needs to tell me and the rest of the class one thing that they learned today. So I'll put you guys on the spot first. What did you learn today? One thing. Very good. The median is the middle number in a set of numbers. Very good. Go through the groups. That is correct. The pickle is a cucumber, and cucumbers are a fruit, not a vegetable. Even though at grocery stores they're categorized as vegetables, they are fruit because they come from a flower and they have enclosed seeds. Awesome job. I didn't really talk about that throughout the lesson, hoping that you would get curious, and you guys did great. So I will see you tomorrow.